I think it goes back a few years, our blues as Native American, and I think it goes back to the year 1492, which is also, our the year that we discovered um, this lost explorer called Christopher Columbus. So
Mm-hmm.
Native Americans consider that ever since 1492, we have had the blues. And I always said, throughout history, we have always been, you know, put in positions where, well, being disrespected as Native Americans. And was influenced by other genres of music, at that time in the 60s and the 70s, and and then other poets and other artists, Native American artists, other bands such as Redbone, and then the old Exit band. I'm not sure if anybody was familiar with. Also, even in the genre of reggae, through Bob Marley,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of just influence throughout, the music that everybody else was doing back then too. But also, my first time, I really started realizing that something was wrong with the history of us as Native Americans. I attended Victory Boulevard School, and it was my elementary school. I was in fifth grade. And I remember sitting and talking to a friend of mine, and we were just having a little conversation. And I remember at that time, up in front, who I still remember is Mr. McCune, was having a discussion with a individual, a lady, about something. Of course, we couldn't hear it from them because everybody was talking and stuff. But then we were talking, my friend and I, about softball and who's going to be on our team and stuff. And then I overheard the teacher, Mr. McCune, say, excuse me, can I get your attention? So and so here is here to get information on whether or not we have any Native Americans in the room here. And so, do we have any American Indians here? And right away, I lifted my hand up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, "You're Native American, Tracy?" I go, "Yeah." And then all my friends started turning around and looking, you're American Indian?" I said, "Yeah." And I was kind of puzzled. I was kind of confused because I'm thinking, yeah, why is it so strange,
Right,
And
right.
and then later, a couple of minutes later, we went to recess, and then 10 of my friends came around. "Well, you're really American Indian? Do you live in a teepee? Do you wear your moccasins? Uh, where, I thought you guys were dead." I can hear other kids. I thought they all died. And
Wow.
I thought to myself, I was thinking, well, why was that said, And because then, of course, I was learning history and stuff, but I didn't realize that through history books, they talk about us as like we were a thing in the past, that we were a culture that was destroyed, you know, and we no longer exist. So I started thinking, that's wrong, this is wrong. And then even, because I've always been in touch with my culture because at that time in the 60s and 70s, uh, my mother's Martha Durrell, which our original name is Mata Weir, and she actually moved to the city with all of my other brothers and sisters to get away from the reservation because there wasn't many jobs, there wasn't anything.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Nearest is 35, 40 miles from our reservation. There's nothing, no street lights, no running water, third world condition. And so my mother didn't want us to be brought up that way. So she decided to move to LA. And so that's where I got my education, is through the elementary school, Victory Boulevard, Coldwater. North Hollywood is where we moved to. So I lived in North Hollywood and went to North Hollywood High School there. And it was just something that my mom really wanted us to, to better ourselves, But then through this, the school process, I learned other things that took place that was wrong, that was obviously wrong. Always believed or always known that throughout history, us as Native Americans, our rights have been violated. Our
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I said this is wrong, and I was really fortunate because I had a mother and another mother and father, my stepdad, who was married to my mom, but he got divorced, my mom, and his name was Ralph and Jan Ebert, and and they were actually German descent, and throughout my life they took care of me, and I love them to death for what they did for me and educating me. Every year I would fly. Every summer I would fly to Illinois, and they would give me, have kids tutor me, through math and just try to make me a better person, a better, a better son. And I just am so thankful and grateful for them and their love, because they didn't really even have to take care of me. I wasn't even a blood to them. See, I didn't even know my real father until 1990, and I found out my father
Mm,
on the reservation. So Ralph and Jan took care of me, and it was really something. But they were always pushing me, Tracy, learn more about your culture, learn more about your language, and you should do this, you should do that. And I just, okay. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking, well, at that time, I thought I was half Native because my mother was Native, and then my father, Ralph Ebert. Here, I'm going to show you a picture of him real quick, if I could see it.
oh yeah.
He,
Hello.
he was of German descent and Janice, and so they were always pushing me to learn my culture, and I just love them to death. Unfortunately, they had recently passed away, but I still think of them, and I know they are with me. Yeah, and my mother and but
Oh, I
and
love
then
that.
I one year I went to see, and I was influenced, of course, by Redbone, and then also a extraordinary poet. He went by the name of John Trudell, and I went to one of his in the early '80s, one of his concerts in Hollywood, and the first song he performed was "Crazy Horse." And I don't know if how many people have heard of John Trudell, but really look him up. He's an extraordinary poet.
Yes.
But that
Yes.
what kind of sparked my drive to go forward to keep bringing more awareness to us as Native Americans and what we were up against, and the history and also the present too of what we're still against. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, that happened a long time ago. That's the old days. That's the old Indian wars, cowboys and Indians, No, it's not. We're still up against it today. Here it is, 2020, 2021. And it's like, no, we're still having problems with acknowledging our sovereign rights, our culture. They're disrespecting us and just totally violating every treaty that that existed and that came up. And so I just that's actually why I started writing the blues, because I knew that I started with punk rock in the old days, late 70s.
Really?
Yeah, I went, and then the '80s I was a punk rocker. And it was just being young, you rebel against society, the decline of Western civilization and stuff, and then so from that, my bass player Donald Durham, he had said, it'd be a good idea, Tracy, to write some songs about Native issues. And I'm thinking, I've been thinking about that because, and I didn't know how to do it, in what way, in what form, in what genre. And I think it was B.B. King that I heard say, if you're going to write the blues, you got to write it from your heart. You have to tell the truth, and and uh, and just play the blues.